Hey everyone, welcome back to Death Must Die's Act 3. So today we're going to do a first impression slash feedback type of video for Act 3. So we're going to go over the good, the bad, and there's definitely some ugly in there that we're going to touch on. So overall, I do want to start with the good stuff. I think the overall tone and vibe and graphic fidelity in terms of animations and stuff like that, that all looks pretty good, right? They've always done a great job with pixel art, and I think this update has some great new enemy designs. The new character and the new god look really cool. All that sort of stuff is great. Speaking of the new god, I like him at first. I was a little bit like, oh, he's alright, but he's a knockback kind of god. The more I played around with him, the more I like some of his abilities. Maybe he's not as unique as I would have liked because some of his abilities definitely feel like they're kind of copied. It's like a water version of Breath of Fire, for example. And he's got another one that's like a water version of, it's almost like Light Rays, but it's like water gushing. I don't know, it looks very similar. So I like the new god. The new character is really cool. So new character is interesting. So we're dealing with a druid. So druid can actually transform into different forms. So if we come over here into the skill tree, if you guys are unfamiliar, we have different different forms. We've got the bear form, we've got the panther form, and we've got where is it, eagle form over here. So really interesting character. We got some really powerful healing type stuff to do with strike damage. So pretty strong for strikes. I haven't used all of the builds on this character yet. I do really like the bear form. I think the cooldown's a bit too long maybe, but I really like the bear form. This is the setup we used in the previous video that we did on the druid. It's a pretty cool character. I like it. I haven't messed around with all of the setups yet and all of that sort of stuff, so it's only a first impressions sort of thing. I do like it. I do really like the tankiness and survivability of the bear form. Panther form is really fun. It's really fast. I haven't really messed too much around with eagle form just yet, so I think the new character ended up pretty good, I would say. Overall, I like the transformations are really cool. I like some of the gear items have been not that great. I haven't really come across that many uniques for this character just. Yeah, we got an interesting purple that rolled for us here with 180% effects range and 48% attack speed. So, I mean, we got some interesting stuff, but nothing super crazy. We got this thing though, the Blood Presence, which is pretty cool. It's a medium armor with strike damage, and whenever a strike triggers, there is a chance you heal some life. So this thing is really nice. This is probably the most powerful one for this character that I have used thus far. That's not to say that it is the only one or the most powerful one, but so overall, I think the character ended up pretty good. So let's first talk about what happened on day one. So the patch came out, and a lot of people complained that it was too hard. Baseline level difficulty on the new character was pretty difficult, but I didn't really have a good gear setup. I hadn't farmed the skill points yet either. So for me, I kind of expected it to be that hard in the early part of using that character. However, switching over to some of the other characters that I already had min-max setups on, and you could tell that they'd been nerfed pretty hard. So Merys, man, she got nerfed pretty hard. Don't get me wrong, Merys is still a good character, has some good character builds, etc, etc. She's been nerfed hard, alright? Lorian's been toned down. War Chief has been toned down significantly. There have been pretty big nerfs across the board. A lot of your tier 2 gear will now have lower stats, which is fine because they've added the tier 3, right? So the chase is now for the tier 3 items. So on day one, the drop rates for the tier 3 items were pretty low. So within the first 24 hours, they buffed the drop rates by 100%. You're now getting uniques like it's nothing. I've got so many uniques already. I haven't played that long. They did that, but they also nerfed enemy health and enemy damage by 30% and 20% respectively, right? It did help, but man, there are some big issues with Act 3. So that's the sort of good stuff. I would say music is pretty good as well. I just like the gameplay feel of this game, right? So let's talk about some of the bad stuff. So even after that patch on day one, there are some significant balancing problems with Act 3. It's more pronounced the higher darkness you go, but it is not a Darkness 100 exclusive problem. It is definitely an issue at at all darkness levels. So the number one biggest problem for me is the crowd control against the player feels way too overtuned, like freaking 5 times overtuned or something, man. The problem with it is there are so many different things that can either slow you down or just keep you in place. So what am I talking about? There are enemies that can freeze you. There are enemies that can put a debuff on you that just slows down your character movement speed. There's another debuff they can put on you that debuffs your dashes, so your dashes don't move like anywhere at all. And then there is the brambles that they can spam. They spam brambles everywhere. If you get stuck in a bramble, not only does it do big damage, but you can't get out. Like, it's hard to get out. And then there's stuff like the big energy balls that are homing you. See, the problem is any one of these mechanics by itself is totally fine to deal with, but all of these can be stacked on top of each other, and you can go from like feeling super comfortable and good in a run to all of a sudden having a wave that stacks like 5 different crowd control things against you all at the same time. It just kills your run. It just straight up kills your run, and it's not fun. Getting crowd controlled to death is not fun, straight up. In any game, it's just not fun. Taking the ability to control the character away from the player and then killing them feels shit, just straight up. Like, there's no two ways around it. So that is the number one biggest problem. There are some other issues too, like some of the character builds feel like they're nerfed too hard. I think like Dash Maris feels pretty good, but Cast Maris feels like she's been nerfed pretty hard. The summoning builds feel really weird right now too, because when you're just running around, say, minute 1 to minute 6 or whatever, you feel all right because the summons take some of the aggro from the enemies, which is actually really, really nice. I like that change, but the problem is they don't seemingly do much boss damage at all. And even with like few 100% on my gear and then taking the summons and leveling them up and stuff, and having like tier 3 dragons on my gear, and the summons still feel real weak versus the bosses, at least at, you know, maybe 50 up. When you're doing Darkness Zero, man, if you have tier 3 gear, you can smash it. That's not really a problem, right? Some of these crowd control things do show up in Darkness Zero, though. You're not, like, totally, you know... it's not a free pass. That's what I'm trying to say there. The other thing is your summons can get charmed, and they just turn against you. And, man, I don't know if the one-shot is still in the game, but early on, if you took the Rock Golem, and he got charmed and turned against you, he can one-tap you from, like, 230 health or something, like, just... I'm like, excuse me? That was my summon that I chose as a blessing. I leveled him up. I got him up to, like, epic, whatever, level 10. And then he comes and bang, one-taps me. It's like, what the hell? This is crazy, man. So, there are some significant, like, balancing sort of issues as you go up the darkness levels, too. So, yeah, I don't know. Where do we even begin? So... The good, the bad, and the ugly is how the gameplay feel of Death Must Die is ruined by some of these choices. That is really, at the end of the day, is the real ugly of this part. When you take that much control away from the player, you ruin the gameplay feel, and that's not good. That's not fun. You kind of force players to make the cheesiest builds to kind of overcome that type of difficulty, which, again, doesn't feel great. And sort of the overarching point I want to make here is a lot of the character builds that were pretty viable in Act 2 feel pretty trash in Act 3. Even when you start upgrading them to Tier 3 gear, they feel like they've been nerfed to the point where the developers didn't want to make them good or strong or interesting anymore. They're like, nah, use this new gimmick instead. So a lot of the really powerful builds currently are kind of gimmicky. Like, oh, you get 60% more experience, but you can't take master offers. What was the other one? You get an extra, oh god, I can't remember. You get an extra dash slot, but there was another big negative, and there's another one that gives you like big damage boost. But you can't like draw in the XP shards, so the strongest stuff in the game right now feels like gimmick uniques, which is it's cool, I guess, in some way, but in some other way, it's the part that is kind of a bit frustrating from my perspective is like, what was the point of the procedural patch, all the balancing, the beta branch, all this extra time you took to do all this balancing stuff if you're just gonna release Act 3? You're gonna nerf all the stuff that's actually fun and strong from Act 2, and then you're just gonna give us like real gimmicky stuff? It's like, I don't know, it's kind of weird right now. Now, don't get me wrong. I think once I have like fully min-max T3 gear, we're probably going to be pretty strong too. So don't get me wrong. We have some tier 3 items. We have some decent ones that have dropped for us thus far, but we absolutely do not have everything. So I also want to talk about one of the other new mechanics is this devotion mechanic, which on paper sounds interesting, and I think if they could figure out a different way to implement this, it might actually be really good. So the gods now have an additional blessing, which is a devotion, and basically what this means is you are now devoted to that god. You have like, depending on the rarity, you have anywhere between like 90 and 200% more chances to get them to show up as the god offers, right? It sounds really cool. It sounds like, yeah, I can take this and like hyper specialize, right? And in some circumstances, it does work. But in a lot of other circumstances, I am left in a situation where I'm forced to take devotion from a god who has no other blessings left, or have no blessings that I actually want. Same with the thing that they added to the fates, which is a really cool in principle. What these, I can't remember what they're called, but they're basically like further evolutions for your abilities. So, for example, Breath of Fire has a chance to multi-strike. Force has a chance to make these huge orbs that come in and just like bang through everything or whatever. So each one has a different thing that it can basically. It's kind of like an evolution. They only come from the fates. Once again, you're left every now and then in this situation where you're forced to take one of these when you don't want to, and the reason you don't want to is they take up one of your slots. So, like, if it's a strike, it takes up an extra slot, strike slot. If it's a power, it takes up an extra power slot, right? So these slots are already in pretty high demand. Some builds you can get away with doing it. If you really want to boost like a single ability, if you are going to do like a single ability type run, sure. But yeah, there are certain situations where you're left with no dice and the fates come up and you're forced to take one that will remove a slot, but you don't want to, and it's like, oh. And you could say, well, that's what banishes are for, but that's true, but there are also situations where you've used your banishes and then it happens, or maybe you want to build a specific way and you don't have that many banished dice to work with because of your gear loadout, because, you know, RNG, right? So there's a lot of different factors there, but I do like the idea of evolving the abilities. The current implementation is a bit, again, it feels a bit so there are some other stuff that was balanced, like the fates have changed quite a bit. Some of their blessings are now in different gods, and some of the blessings have been changed. I gotta say, one of the other things I really don't like is some of the blessings have been changed to temporary damage buffs instead of permanent damage buffs. Like, when you dash, deal more dash damage by 1% for 4 seconds. And it's like, that's trash. That feels so bad compared to what it used to be, which is like 50% more dash damage, or I can't remember what it capped out at, 80% more dash damage or something. So one of the things I'm noticing is it's hard to scale up certain damage types throughout a run unless you get really, really lucky with some of your shrines and stuff like that, right? You really have to have, I don't know, I feel like you'll get punished pretty hard for not having much damage stat rolls on your gear, just for general general building and stuff. Obviously, there are some specific builds you can get into or whatever, but there is also just one other thing that I wanted to talk about here. Some of the blessings feel like they've been toned down too much, or they're just not good enough for Act 3. I'm talking about dash blessings specifically. Some of them feel pretty bad, don't get me wrong. Some dashes are pretty strong, like the new title dash, whatever it's called, Flood. Very strong dash. Some of the other dashes, they feel trash compared to where they were in the previous patch, Act 2. After the procedural patch, which is really sad because prior to the procedural patch, dashes felt so bad. Now they were in a good spot and now they're back to feeling pretty bad. Oh, it's unfortunate. Now, I don't want to make full judgment on all of the builds until I have min-max tier 3 gear, but that's going to take a while. So I want to just also talk about the bosses here, because some of these bosses, especially as you go up and if you add on any of the boss darkness stuff, they are so fast, they spam so many attacks, and that stupid frog pulls you in from off screen and then just spams you, and you can't dash out of the AoE quickly enough, and he damages you. Man, I know some people really struggle with the tree boss fight. I found by the time I get to the tree boss fight, usually my build is kind of getting online, and it's not as bad as Frog Boy, but some of my runs early on absolutely got destroyed to the tree boss as well. So, you know, there's that. I don't know, man. I think Jeff said it really well. He said it like, does this need to be Dark Souls or something like that? Don't quote me the exact quote, but, you know, now we're playing Dark Souls, I guess. I don't think this game needs to be Dark Souls. Have Dark Souls bosses. Have interesting boss mechanics, sure. I have different boss mechanics. Look, I like, actually, aside from the fact that the Lady of the Lake is probably too fast, or too spammy, or moves around too much, one of the three, I don't know. Aside from that, I actually like her design. The first boss and second boss, I don't really like them that much. I think... I don't know, I'm trying to think back. Like, I think the Act 2 7-minute boss is one of the more unique and interesting type bosses, because his mechanics are a bit different. I think some of the Act 1 bosses, man, haven't done them for a while, but I really enjoyed the 2 dragon sort of one. Having to face like 2 bosses at the same time has kind of added a different, interesting dynamic. Now, they did spam you quite a bit, but you could learn their attack patterns and evade them, whereas High Darkness, some of these bosses, man, even if you know their attack patterns, like, it's real hard to get away from them and not just get absolutely crushed. But so, overall, I still like this game. I don't want to come across as too negative. I think some of these things can be fixed, and you know, the experience will be improved significantly. But for right now, crowd control stuff is the number one biggest thing that I think it has to change. It's stacking that many different crowd control things against the player all at once. It's a big no-no. It feels so bad, man. I don't know. Aside from that, I think just maybe some of these things got nerfed a little bit too hard. Like, War Chief has like a really long cooldown. Well, it's not really long. I say really long, but it's got a 1.2 second cooldown, so you can't really spam it per se anymore. Meris's SHA closed 20%. Twincast is also 20%. That's been toned down, so you're not able to spam cast anywhere near as much. Telekinesis feels way weaker. Hydra is pretty sad now. 100% negative damage is just, I don't know, it is what it is. So it feels like a lot of the stuff from Act 2 that was really strong has just been like nailed way down, you know what I mean? And the frustrating part for me is, why did we go through the procedural patch? Why do we have to wait a full year if we were just going to end up in the same state again? Oh, whatever. It is what it is, guys. We're going to be playing more because I really like this game still. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think with a comment down below. I think I've been pretty fair. I think there is some good stuff in here. I think there's some pretty wonky stuff in here, and there's definitely some bad in here. There's definitely some big improvements that need to be made here for Act 3. So I'd be interested to know what you guys think. If you think I'm crazy, if you think I'm kind of on point, let me know. I've also put a poll up on the channel. I'm interested to know. Go over there to the community page and smash the poll. I want to know. I put down, is it too hard? Is it too easy? Is it just right? Or is it too hard to tell because it's a complete mess? Those were the 4 options. So let me know with a let me know by smashing that poll, guys. So with that being said, let me know in the comment down below as well what you think of the update, and I'll catch you in the next video, guys. I hope you all have a fantastic, amazing day wherever you are. I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.